Today is Monday, June 15, 2026. Coming up on Roland Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The battle for voting rights continues. In North Carolina, on a late Friday night, Republicans released a massive omnibus bill packed with voter suppression provisions, including a ban on efforts to encourage voter turnout, even not allowing politicians to encourage people to vote. We'll talk with the North Carolina State Representative about their latest attack. Georgia lawmakers are set to return to the state capitol for a special session this week to change the congressional maps in that state. Texas Freedom Summer 2.0 is kicking off this week. We'll talk to the director about the initiative, which aims to mobilize black voters. Also, we'll chat with Color Change's chief of campaigns about delivering thousands of petition signatures directly to AT&T headquarters in Dallas, demanding the immediate reinstatement of DEI programs the company dismantled following a pressure campaign from FCC Chair Brendan Carr. The White House UFC event took a turn when one of the fighters insulted former First Lady Michelle Obama, and it was an absolute shit show, the whole program. Actor David Oyelowo has apologized after he made some comments regarding how he prepares for a Southern accent. Also, it's a part of this whole debate whether black British actors are taking roles from African-American actors. It's an old conversation, and my God, I wish it would absolutely end. Also, folks, on today's show, Bishop William Barber just completed his Moral Mondays campaign just down the street. We'll show you what took place out there as well. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
The Republican war on black America continues, and ground zero has been North Carolina for more than a decade. Late Friday night, North Carolina Republican leaders dropped an unannounced 36-page omnibus bill stuffed with new voter restrictions and election changes. Some of the despicable provisions, all designed to restrict voting, including total ban on encouraging voter turnout. State and county board members are prohibited from any public statement, quote, encouraging or promoting voter turnout in any election. It grants the Republican state auditor total discretion to audit all machines, county offices, and personnel involved in any election. Reduces campaign finance transparency. The bill significantly raises the dollar thresholds for required reporting of dark money contributions or media expenditures, waiving reporting for the rest. It requires voters to register with a political party a full year before voting in that party's primary election, up from 90 days. Total ban on any ranked choice voting in any primary or general election statewide, and it strips some overseas voters of their eligibility to vote in any state election. Partisan staffing changes. Up to 25 professional staff at the State Board of Elections will be changed from career civil staff to partisan political appointees. Joining me now is North Carolina State Representative Amber Baker. Representative Baker, glad to have you here. This is an unbelievably shameful bill. To say that you can't even encourage people to vote is absolutely a violation of the First Amendment.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Roland. You know, we in North Carolina, unlike what's happening around the rest of America, our constituents and voters are struggling with higher costs with utility bills and rising gas costs and the cost of feeding families and the lack of workforce housing. And yet the Republicans are choosing to focus on election law changes and so close to the November elections. And additionally, this is not new for them, that they have a track record of trying to change election laws not too far from our general elections.
Again, for folks who don't know, in November 2024, Democrats retained the governor's mansion. Democrats won lieutenant governor's race. Democrats won the attorney general's race, and also, I believe, the secretary of state's race, correct?
Correct.
So what Republicans did was they stripped the authority over state board of elections from the governor and secretary of state and gave it to the state auditor. And this is what Republicans have done when they have had a supermajority in the legislature. And these are the actions that they have taken repeatedly over the last 15 years.
Mm-hmm. And they're also in lock-sync with what we're seeing in terms of trying to get access to our voters' social security numbers, which has nothing to do with people's ability to vote. They also are continuing to suppress the voters in terms of access. So as you mentioned at the top, people who are known, who work and serve overseas, but who have their base as North Carolina, but have never actually lived in North Carolina, which is legal because they are in the military. These folks are in jeopardy of losing their ability to vote as well.
Okay, so right now, where does this stand? If I'm correct, they no longer have the supermajority, correct?
Correct. We have it by one vote. We are able to sustain a governor's veto if Governor Stein chooses to veto this bill by one vote. But as you know, that can be problematic. So we have to make sure that we hold all of our votes.
Well,
on this particular issue.
And what people don't realize is you had 3 Democrats who lost in the primary, and they're pissed off, and they could be problematic in terms of holding that veto.
Absolutely. And one of those members is also on the Elections Law Committee, which I serve as the shadow chair for. And so we are scheduled to officially hear the bill in election law and reform in the morning. And there's not enough Democrats on that committee to kill it in committee. But we still want to show a united front. And right now we're unsure where the Republicans stand on this. We've offered a series of amendments to make a really horrible bill less horrible. And so we will begin the process of moving the bill from filing to eventually seeing it land on the floor.
It's amazing how this just continues, and Republicans they don't want everyone to vote. That's what this is all about. And this bill they dropped is absolutely shocking, stunning, but it's par for the course for the people who a panel of federal judge ruled were at a laser-like precision of targeting of black voters. These people have been doing all they can to stop people from voting in North Carolina, and especially black people.
Yeah, our maps are, they are gerrymandered to the hilt. So at this point, they really can't gerrymander it any further, although they could. But now what they're doing is we've created the maps that we want, which, by the way, the Speaker Pro Tem in the Senate lost his seat even with those gerrymandered seats. But now they're suppressing the vote with these provisions. And the really ironic thing about this is one of the bill sponsors is Sarah Stevens, and she is running against Supreme Court Justice Anita Earls. And so this is her bill. And so she is scheduled to resign her position as of noon tomorrow. So she will not be able to vote on this bill. But it'll be interesting to see if she shows up in committee to speak on the bill. But she probably will not, because she does not want people to know that she's the author of this mess.
And what is her name?
Sarah Stevens.
Sarah Stevens. Well, I tell you right now, people need just to understand what's going on here, and we're seeing these actions all over the country. So y'all keep up the fight. We certainly appreciate it.
We will keep up the fight. And the other person on that bill sponsor for people to keep a close eye on, because he is in a flippable seat, is John Blust out of Guilford.
John, spell the last name?
Blust.
Got it. Okay.
And he was on the floor a couple of weeks ago talking about how America has gotten a bad rep for slavery, and how in some ways we're responsible for the demolishment of slavery, but America doesn't get enough credit for that. So that is the shenanigans that we're dealing with.
Crazy. All right. Representative Baker, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Now, folks, also keep in mind later this week in Georgia, lawmakers will return for a special session to consider moving away from QR code printed ballots used to tally votes. This comes after Governor Brian Kemp called a special session to redraw congressional maps for the 2028 elections and address concerns surrounding the state's touchscreen voting machines. Voting rights advocates have raised concerns that the machines may be vulnerable to hacking and argue that voters cannot fully verify that their ballots are accurately recorded. If lawmakers do not resolve the issue soon, election officials warn that the state could face confusion and potentially litigation ahead of a special election to fill a U.S. House seat scheduled for July. But the big thing there also, the changing of their maps for 2028. Georgia wants to wipe out at least 2 black congressional seats. Let's go to my panel. Joining us today is Dr. Omekongo Dibinga Sr., Professor of Electoral School of International Service, American University. He joins us right now from Washington, D.C. He also is author of the book, Lies About Black People, How to Combat Racists. Jelana Jones is Texas State Representative and lawyer from Houston. Dr. Derek Jackson, State Representative from Georgia, from Atlanta. Glad to have all three of you here. I'll start with you, Derek. What's happening in Georgia? Again, they are targeting black people. This is an attack on black people. And what you see in North Carolina, they absolutely are scared to death. A massive voter turnout. Republicans lost the top 4 positions in the state. You've got a U.S. Senate seat that is up for grabs. You've got the Nita Earl seat on the Supreme Court. If she retains her seat, it will be 5-2 Republicans. 3 of their seats are up in 2028. That's what all this is about.
You're absolutely right, Roland. I mean, this is about trying to diminish black voters' power. I mean, think about it. They're going after Sanford Bishop's seat. He'd been there for 30 years. They also want to go after the late Congressman David Scott's seat. And so we see what they're trying to do. Number one, they keep trying to use what happened in Louisiana, that court case in Louisiana. That has nothing to do with Georgia. Georgia's not mentioned in that case, Roland. Has absolutely nothing to do with Georgia. So it's wrong what they're trying to do. It's illegal because they're also saying, well, we have a legal right. No, it's not. We're not supposed to be here, Roland, until 2030. And so we don't even have current census data to redistrict and redraw these maps. And so the last, and I appreciate you having my dear sister from North Carolina. This threat around where we are, we have what our ancestors did not have, Roland. Because back when they created the Voting Rights Act, they didn't have not one black person in Congress, not one black person in the state legislature, not one. Not one. And so they're trying to roll back the clock from 1964 and 1965 to where we are in 2026. And so we cannot allow for this to happen. Our special session will start on June 17th. We're asking everyone near and far to show up and be that voice. We need to, this is not just about Georgia. This is about the South. From Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina. And so we're asking everyone to show up on June 17th. Programs such as yours, we got to bring more visibility to this because what they're trying to say, they have the right, and we all know it's very wrong.
Jolanda, I'll go to you. Again, you have been part of these battles in Texas, and it is absolutely a Republican war on Black America.
Well, they're trying to take us back to even before Jim Crow, but the bottom line is Trump controls the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court made it easier for them to disenfranchise us. And what you can see is Trump knows he's really messing up, as do his allies. So they have really lost their minds, and they are desperate, and they're trying in every state where they have somebody Republican who can do something to literally change the rules and confuse people before it's time for them to vote. And quite frankly, with the racist gerrymandering where they've cracked and they've packed us, in other words, they've taken Black people where we were concentrated and could control the outcome of an election and divided us up to weaken our concentration. So the only way for us to overcome this is to go out and vote during these special elections during November like we've never voted before, because this literally is going to determine how far we are able to go in the future and whether we will continue to have rights, because our kids have less rights than we do, for sure. And so that's what the Calais case in Louisiana was. It was so that the Republicans can do exactly this, because the Supreme Court has no legitimacy. It is absolutely the voting piece for the president. And it's my understanding that this just came out on Friday. What's today, Monday? So people had to be working to try to figure out how to stop this. But the only way, again, for them to be able to stop anything in Georgia is to go out and vote. And I know we're not talking about like them saying you can't tell anybody when to vote. That violates the First Amendment, first and foremost. So I think that people need to tell them anyway when it's time to vote, and like all day, every day, clearing calls in Black newspaper and Black media on here, Roland, and everywhere else, so that Black people know when it's time for them to go vote, because we will be worse than Jim Crow if this is able to go forward. And it's unacceptable. It's unconstitutional. It's illegal. We are under attack, and we better start fighting back, because if we don't, they're going to drag us back into slavery.
Ome Congo, I've been saying over and over and over again for years, the only way to stop these people is at the ballot box, and that requires a massive, massive Black voter turnout.
Absolutely. And without the vote, we're nothing. I'm going to add another piece that is not as important as voting, but is like 1A or part 2. That letter that the CBC wrote to these companies, we have to continue to demand that these companies answer and let them know that there's going to be real consequences if they do not. They got their money that they're giving to the ballroom. Some of them sponsored these UFC bouts that happened over the weekend. I know we'll get to that later. And some of these and all of these politicians in these states are being funded by somebody as well. And that's another area that we need to do more to speak up on, to let some of these companies know that we can really start to, if we really come together and get organized, we can shut them down as well. So the political piece, the voting piece is number one, first and foremost. We all have said that here, but there are other ways that we can be strategic about it. In the same way that you talk every week about our Black dollars and the power that we have in our community, in the same way that the CBC wrote that letter saying, hey, you organizations got to speak up, we need to put more pressure on them. I saw Angela Rye doing a video about that last week when she was like, people are cowering out, they're speaking up, they just want to protect, they're not speaking up, they just want to protect their checks. And I feel like those folks need to be called out too. But we have to follow up more with these companies, because I think that that's a key component. They're skating by right now while they're helping Trump and MAGA do everything that they want to do. They need more pressure right now.
As the phrase says, pressure bust pipes, and that is needed. I got to go to a break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281.
Hey, what's up? Geek Theory in the place to be. Got Kicked Out Your Mama's University, creator and executive producer of Fat Tuesdays, a air hip-hop comedy. But right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
Last night, a despicable thing happened in the nation's capital. Donald Trump literally turned the White House into a trailer park. UFC had their so-called UFC 250 fight that was a spectacle. And remember, the word spectacle doesn't mean that's a good thing. It was pathetic to see this take place on the White House lawn. 4,000 people who were invited to witness this. They had the whole military flyover, all of the imagery, all this crap. Really, what it was a way for Donald Trump to throw himself an 80th birthday party. It was just unbelievable. And remember, these Republicans, remember when they criticized President Obama for adding basketball goals to the White House tennis court? These fools had this ring erected, and it took more than a month to actually have it erected. And it was somewhat delayed by storms in the nation's capital. I wish it was delayed completely. Now keep in mind, Donald Trump is an investor in UFC parent company. This was streamed on Paramount Plus. It was streaming on the U.S. Army Twitter channel. So the federal government was streaming a match of a for-profit company, a private company, utilizing public property. This was pathetic. And of course, after this idiot Josh Hokett, who at his weigh-in showed up drunk, spitting on himself, it's no shock that after praising God, he would insult former First Lady Michelle Obama.
Hey, shout out to Trump for having the balls to put some shit like this on. And if I'm gonna say anything, there's only one person more incredible than the Incredible Hulk, and that's my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Now listen, Alex Pereira, I want a shama on your mama. And lastly, Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America?
So he insults former First Lady Michelle Obama. Joe Rogan says nothing. He's smiling the whole time. All y'all black people who watch and listen to Joe Rogan, you should be ashamed of yourself for that. That's what that was all about. And Donald Trump said nothing, did nothing, and so did the leader of the UFC, Dana White, who sat ringside next to Donald Trump. At the post-news conference, did Dana White address this issue? No, didn't say a word. Now, he had an interview late Sunday night with Time Magazine. He said, quote, I understand that the Obamas are public figures, but I'm completely against saying nasty and false things about people's families. Everyone knows my position on free speech, but I hate that kind of nonsense. So why didn't you get your punk ass in the ring and say that? Why didn't you say it during the broadcast? Oh, maybe it's because you slap your wife around and you don't mind in women being insulted. And remember when that idiot at Fox News, Emily Compagno, said last month, that totally dim-witted host of Fox is outnumbered. Remember when she got upset and said, why doesn't Michelle Obama stand up and defend Melania Trump?
And my second observation is I would really appreciate if any former First Lady would release a statement and just say, I stand in support of this First Lady. Wow. Because that absence of commentary in the way of many, Michelle Obama is on her podcast all the time. We've heard her thoughts on a lot of things. Can she just spare one sentence in support of this First Lady who has been through so much, who has a target on her in the public square and out? It is horrifyingly atrocious how she has been treated. I would love for there to be some support coming out of her mouth.
Wow, have any of y'all seen Melania Trump's statement today condemning what that idiot said about Michelle Obama? Nope. Matter of fact, I'm sitting here and I'm going through. I don't recall Outnumbered saying anything today. Now, I don't watch that trash, but yeah, I don't see anything. So it's amazing how selective they are in defending attacks on first ladies. It goes to show exactly who these people are. For him to say that, and for Dana White not to say anything, it goes to show you who they are. Well, CM Punk, when he was asked would he show up at that particular fight, he was very clear.
A lot's been made on this White House trip. What do you make of it? Would you accept a trip to the White House if invited?
Interesting question. Number one, I would not be invited. Number two, no, I would not go.
Just no reason to?
No, I'm not. David Duke invites me over for tacos. I'm not going to David Duke's house. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Let's call it like I see it.
Sure.
You know, racist is a racist. I don't care if you're in the White House or, you live down the street from me. Like, I'm not hanging out with you.
See, that's what happens when you have integrity. Sean Strickland, UFC champion and American, was not invited to this big celebration. He went on social media and said it was because of his prior criticism of the state of Israel. Well, he showed up anyway to the big party they had out at the Ellipse. And so check this roll of video.
Everybody relax. Everybody relax. Be cool. Be cool. We got to make it to the stage so we don't die. Be cool. Yo, Sean. My dog. Don't say anything racist. I'm on live. Wait, where's the stage at?
It's over there. It's over there.
We're going to go right to the stage and we're going to just rally this moment.
Oh, it's Strickland right here, baby.
Hey, sir, relax. Relax. No, just watch. I got you. We're covered. Relax. Everybody calm down. Okay. Calm down.
Cover you. Are you live?
Strickland, I watch you get the ball. Hey, everybody, get back. Hey, everybody, get back. Sean. Oh, shit. Chill.
All right, y'all should be cross-rolling another video.
I cannot believe that, bro.
How the fuck y'all gonna lock up the middleweight chick?
Okay. Here's another video. Watch the cops.
I Allah zabgaba.
I cannot believe that, bro.
How the fuck y'all gonna lock up the middleweight chick?
Pretty sure I didn't break them all. Like, I'm pretty sure. But I'm about to go to jail.
So, let me explain something to y'all. It wasn't ticketed at the fan deal. Open to the public. Strickland shows up. Oh, they said, nah, you critical of Israel, which means Trump, you gotta go. I guess Dana White doesn't really believe in free speech, does he? Let's go to my panel, get their thoughts on the pathetic display of ignorance that we saw this weekend. Omikongo, you first.
Ooh, man, it really ties into my last segment, comment about first of all, the White House and the entire administration just being for sale. And I talked about the sponsorship. Yes, you talked about Trump being invested in this, and he's talking about, leaving it up there. And the fact of the matter is that this is a fundamentally violent man who believes in violent demonstrations. And this is why we got the insurrection, which he was a fan of. This is why when Rob Reiner was killed, he was talking about, I didn't really like him. He is just a violent man and gets off on violence. And he threw all to this party, taxpayers' dollars, just to get there and fall asleep. And one thing that is not being talked about enough is the way that the military was utilized and disrespected. In order to be there, the military that were called, you had to have a certain height and weight requirement and waist requirement as well. When you see somebody who has a certain, I know Representative Jackson knows this better than I do. When you have a certain type of recognition, you're supposed to get saluted when you're walking down. And so, these soldiers were walking down with these martial arts fighters, and people thought that the military was saluting these martial arts fighters, but they were saluting, the members of the armed forces who were escorting them down there. So it was just disrespectful. He disrespected our military and cost the taxpayers millions of dollars, all for what? All for this. And then to have that racist remark at the end, this shows exactly who they are. Just like the commentator said, or the guy you showed, I'm not going to go and hang out with a racist. I'm just not going to do that. And we don't have enough people who have that type of gumption to be able to call that out. And lastly, Joe Rogan, you're a coward.
100%. And there's no way in hell I would have attended that crap. And there's some black folks I know who did, and that's pathetic as well. Jolanda, your thoughts about the just ridiculous and utter display and a waste of taxpayer dollars. Security alone, Washington, D.C. is going to have to get paid back about $12 million as a result. That's what it's going to cost taxpayers for that crap that took place 2 blocks from here. You're on mute.
I don't know why, but and I'm sorry about that.
You don't know because you hit your mute button.
I don't believe so. But let's get back to this. To say that it's ignorant is super nice. It's racist. Call a spade a spade. That's what it is. Number 2, it is obvious that Donald Trump and Republicans and white men especially are terrified of black women because they know that we are the most qualified of anyone, which is why they always coming for us. And they're going to continue to come for us because we know exactly how to get them, how to stop them. That's the second thing I'll say. The third thing I'll say is, look, the little man they showed was like 5'7". He's a freaking Lilliputian is what he is. So these are a lot of men with little things, and they're trying to make up for it with their big words. And I'll also tell you, why on earth would Michelle Obama, with very many letters behind her name, be defending Melania Trump, who's never defended Michelle Obama? And Michelle Obama ain't never had to take her clothes off, ain't never had to strip for nobody, ain't never had to take no naked pictures and be able to come up in this world. And Melania Trump has. And so Melania Trump is a, I guess, pretty face if you like them looking like that. And that's how she got to where it is she is. But you know what? They're going to keep coming after President Obama and Michelle Obama because they don't have anything better to do and they have nothing substantive to criticize us for. And the fact that Donald Trump gets to commingle private funds with public funds is illegal. And when he gets out of office, we need to go after him and put him under the jail, which is exactly where he deserves to be. And we need to cancel every black person that was at that event. And black people do not need to watch WWF or whatever the hell it is, because it's racist as well.
I'll tell you this here. This was altered in Photoshop on social media. That was not the shirt that Sean Strickland was wearing, but hey, it's also true. Trump is in the Epstein files, Derek.
You know, this is grounds for impeachment. Let's just start there. This is grounds for impeachment. The Congress need to do their job and start this impeachment process right now. I read something earlier today, Roland, that this individual that's occupying the Oval Office, since he's been in for his second term, has enriched his family $3.4 billion. Now, a lot of folks will ask, well, how is that so? Well, this is a great example. Pay-per-view, he's part of that. He got some of those dollars. But I just want to address the military piece. As one that served this country for 22 years, I just posted the late, great Brigadier General Charles McGee. He's the last of the Tuskegee Airmen. He was 102, served this country. And when I watched those 12 jets that was part of this process, this is not a $5 million jet. Those jets each cost closely $50 million apiece. So when you start talking about the misuse and abuse of our military personnel, those who serve, those who no longer serve, those who are retired, and they serve this country, some of them gave their last breath, and you got the person that's referred to as the commander-in-chief, this is grounds for impeachment. And there were also 3 brawls that took place on the ground of this Rose Garden. They didn't want to talk about that neither. Fights broke out. And so we just got to make sure that this most despicable and disgusting, while they keep talking about the celebration of America in the last 250 years, yeah, we got to talk about the triumph, but we got to talk about the tragedy too. We got to talk about those who serve this country. And it's just despicable that this person that referred to himself as the commander-in-chief treated this country and continues to treat this country in the most demeaning way. And then last but not least, you know, Malcolm X said it best. He said the most disrespected person in America is a black woman. The most unprotected person in America is a black woman. The most neglected person in America is a black woman. So for him to come out and to say what he said about Michelle Obama, the one that occupied that White House for 8 years, scandal-free, and there's no response to it. There's no response from the current First Lady that's there. And so I'm beside myself right now, Roland, because it's incredulous to me. Mm-hmm. It's incredulous to me.
Yep. Well, and
this country too.
Well, don't forget. Don't forget. This is what another UFC fighter, Bryce Mitchell, what he said last week when he was asked about this pathetic event that was staged at the White House. And again, they kept saying that, oh, UFC is covering all costs. No. Taxpayers also funding some stuff as well. Go.
I'm an economics major. I love studying politics. On the political side of things, not the UFC's business. That is, of course, they're going to say yes to it. But what I think personally is that our government is desecrating its role in society by entertaining sports. Our government is to protect and serve the people, and really should be as minimal as possible. And when you're doing all of this stuff, hosting sporting events, it's really outside of what the goal of the government was intended to be, because our tax dollars and resources are funding this operation. And like I said, I'm not criticizing the UFC. I love Dana. I love Hunter. I love Sean, Mick. I love all of them. And it's an amazing thing. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. But the government should never be hosting sporting events because there's more room for corruption, and we already have a corrupted government. And so that's my thoughts on it, is that the government is supposed to protect us, not entertain us.
Yeah, he absolutely spoke truth there. See, what you have to understand, you're also dealing with just complete hypocrites and idiots on the right. Glenn Beck, at one time, who said that it would be an abomination. There's no way in the world that he could ever support Donald Trump. Oh, and then he turned into the second biggest Trump ass kisser behind South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. This is the same person who decried, who just trashed President Barack Obama for sitting down and doing interviews with YouTube creators. This is how he felt about the UFC fight at the White House.
So when I saw a cage match on the lawn where the president decides the question of war and peace, the historian in me kind of flinches a little bit. However, it was the 250th birthday of the United States of America. If you can't throw a party at 250, when can you? Okay. A celebration is not decadence, and it is not anesthesia. Joy is not decline. So which was it going to be? Remembrance, joyous, and entertainment? Are we Rome handing out a circus, or are we a free people throwing a festival that we have every right to throw? I watched it last night, and it was super clear, at least to me. I don't know if you saw it. It was so well worth watching. Even if you don't like UFC and the fight or whatever, I mean, I prefer boxing myself. You know, I don't like it when they're down on the ground and they just keep wailing on each other, but it was okay. But it was remarkable. All of the videos that they were putting in between, the way this whole thing was staged. I mean, just the flyover. Do we have the audio of the flyover?
Y'all, Glenn Beck is truly an idiot. I debated that fool a couple of times at CNN, destroyed his ass, and he told them, I will never go on with him again. He's a total wimp. That's who he is, okay? And forget the fact that, and I'm telling y'all right now, without a doubt, that if Obama chose to do this, if Biden chose to do this, David Duke, Glenn sort of act like Glenn Beck sort of acts like him. Glenn Beck, all the right-wing Fox News, they would be beside themselves. They would be beyond angry at any of this going on. The fiscal conservatives would be running amok. This is a waste of taxpayer dollars. But it also was partisan. At the little fan fest thing, whatever they had on the mall, they were literally running loops of commercials for Turning Point USA. This was not about America 250th anniversary. This was a birthday party for Donald Trump. Pure and simple. And it was utilizing public property, the White House. It was utilizing your money to do so. And it goes to show you who these people are. They are corrupt. They are evil. They are despicable. And those three words completely define the Donald Trump administration and Donald Trump himself. I'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to contribute via Cash App, use a Stripe QR code. You see it right here. If you're listening, go to blackstarnetwork.com. It's also for credit cards. Checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003-7-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Coles.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
Yo, it's your man Dion Cole from Blackish, and you watch
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered. It really is pretty crazy watching these idiots. Now, you have a Boston federal judge who told the Trump administration that they cannot rewrite history just because they don't like it. U.S. District Judge Angel Kelly ordered the administration to reinstall national park signs and exhibits about slavery and climate change that were previously taken down. In March 2025, the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald the Con Trump signed an executive order directing agencies to remove materials that portray the U.S. as inherently racist, calling them, quote, a false revision of history. Nah, no, it's not. However, the plaintiffs argued the policy was unlawfully adopted and resulted in the censorship of historically accurate information. Judge Kelly ordered the exhibit's reinstatement within 21 days and blocked any further removals while the lawsuit continues. Now, speaking of removal, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty is doing a dance after she kicked butt in forcing Donald Trump to remove his name from the Kennedy Center. What's crazy, we talked about this the other day, and they have been so insane in trying to defend the crap that they did, trying to defend the sheer stupidity of his name being on there. And they were even filing emergency motions late Friday to keep his name on. So Congresswoman Beatty was so funny. She put out this funny video of her in the, this is right here, this boomerang of her POV when you protect the Kennedy Center. And of course, she was playing YMCA, Donald Trump's favorite little dance song. And yeah, guess what? She kicked his ass in court. And just another example, Jolanda, of Donald Trump getting his ass whooped by another black woman.
I mean, that's what we do, Roland. That's what we do. And the hilarious thing is that dance that Donald Trump always does that he thinks is so cool. I actually was scared about how accurate she was. I was wondering if maybe she didn't have rhythm, but she's a Delta, so she probably does have rhythm. But in any case.
Really? Are you going to be that petty? You going to be that petty? Wow.
In any case, I love.
I mean, do I need to bring up Trick Daddy at the AK convention?
You know what? Stop that. Stop that. I don't know why she did that.
You got petty.
So in any case, all I have to say is this. I'm actually pleasantly surprised that the courts, the Supremes haven't changed it, because the Supreme Court literally has thrown away the Constitution and basically have become the rubber stamps of Donald Trump. So I'm trying to figure out what it is that Trump can do that the Supremes will stop him from doing it. So I'm holding my fingers that it's not going to go anywhere else. But there was no way I was ever going to the Kennedy Center as long as Trump's name was on it. So I want to thank Congresswoman Beatty for doing that, because she really did give us something to hope for. And she really is trying to preserve, what there is. But more people need to be like her. More people need to be courageous enough to just sue him and put him in his place. But I'm quite frankly liking all these butt whoopings that Trump is taking right now. And hopefully black women will continue to whoop him in court for what's good for America.
I think it's just hilarious, and he was just so upset in his filings, Derek. You're like, this ex officio member. Well, she showed you what happens when you're a member, and went to court, and guess what? Name is in the dumpster.
This is very clear. Facts versus political whitewashing. I mean, slavery happened. And so I'm happy that the judge did the right thing by saying, let's reinstall the slavery exhibits. It's part of this 250-year story that folks want to tell right now. It wasn't all about roses and violets and happy blue skies. Slavery happened in this country. And so they got to stop trying to ban books and whitewash history, and let's call it what it is. It's part of the collective heritage of this country. They started this, Roland. They took our ancestor from a known country and brought them to an unknown land. They started this. So you got to tell part of the story. And then last but not least, you can't just continue to talk about our contributions and exclude us. You can't talk about Abraham Lincoln and not talk about Frederick Douglass. It's impossible. If you're going to talk about Abraham Lincoln, you got to talk about Frederick Douglass. And so we got to make sure this collective story is being told so that way the present and more importantly, the future understands what we've done individually and collectively for this country.
Congo?
Yeah, absolutely. Certified 100%. Both of what our representative said here. One of the problems that I'm having, however, is that Mark Elias said this, the attorney, he said, when people go to court, the judges assume that everybody who's coming to the court is a good faith actor. And he said for years, the courts have for too long been looking at Trump and his administration as good faith actors. And so they continually give his administration so much leeway. It's such a problem for me that these cases take forever. I mean, he should have never been able to get the name up there on the first place, but they understand how slow the process works. But these courts need to understand that they're dealing with somebody who is not a good faith actor, and they need to be able to figure out a way to respond more quickly, because whether we're talking about the name on the Kennedy Center, whether we're talking about these things that he's taken down from national parks, we can run down so many issues that by the time they finally get around to blocking some of these things, the damage has already been done. And in some instances, it's cost people lives, deportations and the like. But really, at the end of the day, I'm so happy for what Representative Beatty has done, because I remember when the decisions were made and they said, oh, it's a unanimous vote. And all of us are like, yo, Beatty's on, she's there. What's happening? How come she ain't saying nothing? She was like, yo, I was muted. Like, they were literally muting me, but now they can't mute her because she has had the last laugh, and it's the last laugh for America.
Well, again, I think you have to fight ignorance, and you have to fight hard every single day. That is absolutely required, especially when you're dealing with this nutcase sitting in the Oval Office. All right, folks, we're going to talk about in the next hour how America wants to forget its history. I'm going to play a comment from this right-wing nutcase so-called comedian. I don't know what the hell he is, Adam Carolla, and actually speaks to that. We'll also talk about the efforts to mobilize voters, especially black voters in Texas with a Freedom Summer. And so there's a lot we're going to break down right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281.
Unplugged and undamn believable. You hear me?
This week is a kickoff for Texas Freedom Summer 2.0. In the 1960s, Freedom Summer was a movement in which students mobilized for voting rights, converging in Mississippi and Alabama to challenge efforts to suppress the black vote. Well, the Black Faith Coalition is leading the 2026 Texas Freedom Summer. Reverend Dr. Danielle Ayers, the co-director of the Black Faith Coalition, joins us right now. Danielle, we had y'all on before. You had your first gathering that was in Beaumont. How did that gathering go, and what's next?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Roland, for having me on again. I want to give a shout out to my co-laborer, Reverend Edwin Robinson, who I wanted to be on with me on tonight because I want everybody to meet him. He is certainly working very hard to make this happen. Beaumont went well, right? We had quite a few clergy. We had some local activists there. And so it really talked about what does it mean for us to mobilize voters locally, that we might be able to expand that throughout the state. And so it went very well. In fact, we had someone from West Texas in Abilene to drive to Beaumont. And because of that, they now want us to come to Abilene. So we'll be headed to Abilene in August. But our first 2-day Freedom Summer will take place in Houston on July 24th and 25th. So, you know, we have 3 Freedom Summer 2-day events. So it's really like one experience, 2 days, 3 locations. The Friday night is going to be designed really to pull in definitely some of our younger folks to get connected and engaged through live music. We're going to kick back and just have some Black joy, but also have some message in our music to encourage our young folks to come back the next day to go through mass training on Saturday, as well as folks at large, right? It's for our faith communities in particular, but certainly anybody from community who wants to come to be trained on advocacy and policy, how you can learn how to not only register people to vote yourself, but also how we do more than registering, but how do we turn people out and get them to the polls? And beyond getting people to the polls on election day, how do we stay engaged in Texas so that as a Texas legislature opens up in 2027, we are equipped and empowered, and we're building our state power, particularly independent Black power, in order to change the systems here in the state of Texas. So Beaumont went well, headed to Abilene, but we're looking at Freedom Summer in Houston, Austin, and then closing out in Dallas, September 18th and 19th.
So how are you in terms of data collection? Because the reality is having events is one thing, but you want to be able to track people. How are you doing that? How are you being able to say, hey, after August, how many people did we touch? Do we have names and phone numbers and emails and social media, things like that?
Certainly, everything that we do, whether it's Freedom Summer or just gathering people for training, we collect everyone's data. Not only do we collect your name, your contact info, we also collect what are some of the skills and talents that you have. Because we also believe that this is also a form of, if you will, a reciprocity, right? We're coming, but we know you also have something to offer. So it's also about not collecting the data, but collecting that data in a very intentional way to keep people connected. So we're not being transactional, that we really are talking about how do we transform through mobilizing and organizing our people for long-term change while we're looking at this more short work between now and midterm elections. So we're constantly collecting data and also continue to reach out to the folks after the event is over to keep up. And I'll say another thing that we're doing here in North Texas on June 27th, in Dallas County in particular, we're going to be hosting a voter deputy registrar training, because in many ways, we want people to be empowered to not just tell people to go vote, but if someone, you're just talking to family reunion, family gathering, just hanging out with friends, if someone is not registered, you can pull out that card and register them right on the spot to make sure they're registered to vote. And so
So hold up. So let's stop right there. Okay. That's taking place on what day?
June 27th, Saturday, June 27th, from 9:30 to 12. And
so I'm going to give you a suggestion that I think you should do this on June 28th. So this took place in Chicago when then State Senator James Meeks was contemplating running for governor. what he did was he had the exact same thing you're talking about right after church. And so what they did was, it was the largest number of people who were deputized as voter registrars in Illinois history. And so what he did was they promoted that, and they said, hey, come to church. At the end of church, they were going to, so they had that very thing. And then that's what they did. So what I would suggest is, hey, in 5, 8, 10, whatever number of churches across the country, do the exact same thing, and then you can able to say, hey, we actually deputize 8,000, 10,000, 20,000 people. It was amazing when they did that. Salem Baptist Church, the House of Hope, the facility holds 10,000 people. It's the second largest church, second largest building in Illinois behind the United Center. And that's how they did that. And so I would recommend adding that. And you, between now and that June 28th, educating those preachers, explaining to people what that actually means, and say, hey, y'all just stick around. I don't know how long the training is it an hour or 2 hours, but stick around after church. And then now, as opposed to hoping folks show up on that Saturday, they already in the pews on Sunday.
Right. No, absolutely. And we can do that as well. This 27 training is targeted toward the larger community at large. Folks who may or may not go to church, but we want them to be connected with us. But I like that, and that's very doable. And we can certainly put that on the calendar and reach out to the other churches that we work with in the Dallas Metroplex area to do the same thing on a Sunday.
Well, I would take it. I would make it the whole state and say, identify your key churches in 5-10 markets, and certainly reach out to Reverend James Meeks to talk about how they actually did it there in Chicago. Questions from our panel. Omekongo, I'll start with you.
Thank you so much for what you're doing. This effort is so important. I really wanted to dig a little deeper on the young people. People talk so much about young people are not engaged and not caring. You go to these voter registration events, it's mostly older people. What are you seeing from the young people right now? Are people just making up stories about our youth?
Well, two things. Number one, the youth that we are engaged with want to be connected, engaged, and some of them just don't know how and where to connect. And so for us, the Friday is geared toward at least having music, the arts, as a way of connecting with our young people, and then having conversations with them and inviting them to come back and to dig a little deeper and get connected based on, hopefully the arts will bring them into the space. And then if we're good and we're able to connect with them, they can say, oh, I get it. Now I'm connecting dots. Let me show up on Saturday to get involved. But also for our youth that are 6th grade through 12th grade, we have the Children's Defense Fund who will be doing a separate youth organizing training, because we want to also catch them even younger, right? To get them connected and engaged, and to understand that no matter what they do in life, by way of professional life or et cetera, that they understand their civic responsibility regardless of which way they go. So we're super excited about that portion of it. But it's beyond. I want to be clear that Freedom Summer 2.0 is where we want to lean into to do broad reach, but we're also constantly working to do all of those, also the smaller gatherings that are more intimate, where you have an opportunity to really get to know people, answer questions, talk to them, and connect their problems to the policy, but also more than that, to show them they already have power, and how do we then pull all this power together to have a consensus agenda as we go into the 90th Texas legislative session, because that is our North Star at this moment. It's how do we listen to the people on the ground at these engagements to find out what is important to you, what's most important to you, and how do we translate that into real policy and laws here in the state of Texas, as much as we can from the ground up at your municipal level all the way to the state level.
Jolanda?
Hey, so Pastor Dr. Ayers, nice to see you again. We were just having this conversation when you spoke with us at the Texas Legislative Black Caucus. I say that to say this: I think history is important. And what I want to know from you, we know that Freedom Summer in '64 is what ignited the Voting Rights Act. We know that. We know that it was led by young people, including people from SNCC, who wanted to inspire young people, who wanted to make a difference. My question to you is, during Freedom Summer, I know we're going to have music, because you can always get some kids to go to a concert. Are you going to have some connect the dots where you explain to the kids because I believe that imitation is the highest form of flattery. And so you are imitating what was very successful in '64. Are you going to explain to them the connection so that they can feel a part of history if they want to be there? Because I know as I was reading about the civil rights movement, which I wasn't alive yet in 1964, and I always said, if this were going on when I was alive, I know I would be there. Are you going to do that connection for the young people so that they can see that they can actually make a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole point of Friday. It is the music, but throughout the evening, that is going to be very intentional, have breaks to then talk about why we're here and what's happening over the weekend, because it's not two events, right? It's Friday and Saturday. And Friday is just a way of pulling us in as community. But yes, we absolutely have in the Runner Show how we're going to, throughout the evening, connect those dots for folks with the hopes that that would inspire them then to come the next day to get the necessary knowledge, skills, and training to do the work we're talking about. Not just voter registration, turnout, and education, but cultural civic literacy and beyond the moment of Freedom Summer. We have to also think, ahead beyond that moment. And to your point, young people led that movement, but I also think about Fannie Lou Hamer, who was a middle-aged Black woman who worked with the students, right? That was her entry point into that movement, though she already had it in her, a well-developed theologianist understanding of human rights. Like, she's more than just a voting rights activist or a civil rights activist. She was a human rights activist. So I think connecting those dots and us understanding that it's not one generation over another, but it's all of us coming together, because it's going to take all of us bringing our wisdom, our knowledge, and our skill sets to this moment if we're going to meet this moment now and beyond.
So I'm going to add one caveat, and I understand what Yolanda just said, but I'm going to add this caveat, and that is I would not spend lots of time on Freedom Summer in the 60s. Here's why. Terrence Woodbury of Hit Strategies has done a ton of focus groups. And really, I remember the conversations he and I had going back to 2020. So now we're talking 6 years. And what's very interesting, he said, based upon his focus group data, and I'll connect you with Terrence because I think this is really important, Danielle, to be using the right language. What he said is that when you're talking to an 18 to 35 demo, if you use the phrase voter suppression, they instinctively think the 1960s. So they literally don't identify it. Now, it's interesting that we use it all the time, but that when they hear it, they think something totally different. His focus groups have said that when people talk about, man, people die for the right to vote, it does not connect with them at all. So I think it's important. Yolanda is right. We absolutely have to connect with 1835, really 1844, which is the lowest voting demo, and the highest voting is 45 plus. But I do think it's really important as we're segmenting audiences, making sure that we have, based upon those focus groups, have the right language that connects with them, and that we're not using language that doesn't connect with them. Because it was fascinating when he told me about those polls, and I was like, wow. I mean, but he literally said, it's in the data. If you say voter suppression, it doesn't move them. But he said, if you say they're shutting down polling locations, that moves them. It was very interesting what he said, so I'll be sure that he gets that information to you so you can have that. Derek, go ahead.
Texas holds the largest raw number of Black eligible voters of any state in this country. My question is simply the number of eligible voters and those who actually show up on voting day. There's a huge gap. I mean, the Black church, HBCUs, Black fraternities and sororities, the D9, we do a phenomenal job registering. But right now, I'm just using Georgia as an example.
Actually, I disagree on the phenomenal part, but go right ahead.
I mean, we have 33% of black population in Georgia. But right now, in this special election, only 6.6% turnout. 6.6, 33%. And so what can we do other than having nice rallies and parties and bringing out the TIs and everybody? We got to close that gap between 6.6% and 33%.
Yeah. Danielle, go ahead.
So, yeah, let me say that. So we have we have a very large number of eligible voters in Texas. So part of what I'm saying beyond Freedom Summer, right? And some of the stuff we already have done. We work with like Black Voters Matters and others who give us the data to say, in this particular precinct, there was low voter turnout. Here are some very targeted ways you need to do text, phone banking, lit drops, etc. So for us, our strategy is going to be looking at those numbers, working with those organizations that provide that data to do targeted type of turnout and organizing in those specific precincts and areas with the hopes of making sure that we can then increase that by those outreach efforts. And I'll just say that it's not about rally, but the rallies are something that pulls people in, but you have to have something beyond that moment, which is why we collect data then to invite them out to something even smaller, more engaging, or our way of looking at where people are to be able to then target those areas to make sure it's not just one touch, but multiple touches. Because I also think we do a lot to touch people once and say, go vote, early vote starts on this day, hang up, go to the next caller. But some kind of way, we have to do more than one touch so people can feel like they are a part of this political ecosystem. And I think we have to do more training and educating around that as well. That is not just voter engagement that's critically important, but beyond that we have to understand that impacts other things in the political ecosystem, whether that's policy, whether that's, people who are appointed to federal judges, to judge positions, et cetera. So I think it's a whole program that needs to happen beyond voting. But to answer your question, how we plan to do it would be to work with those orgs that give us that data to know where do we target our efforts, and then how many times do we feel we need to have touches in connecting with people so they can go up to the polls and vote. And again, I think you have to do something beyond just getting them to the polls in November. They have to feel like they're a part of something to keep doing the work. So we're not always talking about low voter turnout. We're not always talking about what do we do to make sure people go to the polls and vote.
She nailed it. And see, Derek, and I'm just going to say this here, and listen, you know what? Having a concert, that's great. Doing big rallies, that's wonderful. But as somebody who has covered those, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I think how they are done is a complete waste of time and money. They are. Now, imagine this. Imagine if you had a concert and the concert wasn't in the evening, the concert wasn't in the early afternoon. Imagine if your concert was at 9 or 10 a.m. and you said, we're going to gather, rally, and then when the concert's over, we're going to block walk. See, the model that you're talking about, and this is why I believe the old model has been failing, is because, and I've watched this, I watched the massive rallies with Vice President Kamala Harris. We covered many of those. I'm sorry, I just think they absolutely, perfect example, the night before the election, the obscene amount of money they spent on the rally in Philadelphia and the simultaneous rallies in the other cities and states, to me, was absolutely stupid. Imagine if the money spent on those rallies was put on the ground for the final 72 hours of the election or the previous 2 weeks when you had early voting. And to me, that's where we're missing. Danielle is 100% correct. In 2024, I was in Cincinnati, and I stopped at a black restaurant, because whenever we travel, we support black-owned restaurants. And I ran into a frat brother of ours. And he said, brother, we're going to do voter registration at the Bengals game. I said, why y'all doing that? He said, what do you mean? I said, why would you waste 3, 4, 5 hours to go do voter registration at the Bengals game? how many people are you going to come through there who are likely not registered? I said, doesn't it make sense, brother, to go down to the Board of Elections and get the last election information on the top 10, 15, 20 black precincts, and then pour over that data and then say, okay, this weekend we're going to canvass door to door in this precinct? And he said, we can do that? I said, yes, the data's public. You can do that. And see, Danielle, that's what I mean. I just think that what's happening is we've got too many of our established groups. So I'm talking D9, Prince Hall Mason, Eastern Star, Links, church groups, and others who are trying to, let's just get everybody excited and then hope they turn out. So we're going macro, hoping it impacts micro. I argue we got to go micro that then results in macro. So if I can look at data and say, there's 600 registered people in this predominantly black precinct. Now, how many people actually live in this precinct? So in the voter registration phase, which is really now between the deadline, we might need to tap, if let's say there are 1,100 total eligible people who can vote, but only 600 registered. We got to go get as many of those 500 as possible. And once we get them registered, we then have to double back and now retouch them 2, 3, 4 times before election day to make sure they turn out. And that's how we should be taking our groups and say, hey, don't go to a football stadium and spend your time. No, take your 10, 12, 15, 20, 30, 50, 100, 200 members and descend on a black precinct.
Yeah, right. I think it's well, when you talk about building power across Texas, it has to be from the ground up, right? So we have to make sure that we are touching people at the very ground level. To your point, the micro approach is where we're going to have to go now and beyond. I would continue to say that we need to think beyond midterms, to 28 and beyond, right? So you're absolutely right. And that's our goal, and that's our program, and that's our plan of action.
All right, then. First of all, if people are interested, where should they go to get information?
They should go to Black Faith Coalition on Instagram, is where we have all of our contact information, everything regarding Freedom Summer, and also the other work that we're doing to mobilize around the state of Texas in these smaller groups where we're building justice hubs across the state of Texas.
All right, then. All right, Danielle, we really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, then. All right, folks, I'm going to take a break. We're going to talk about Brits versus American actors. The actor David Oyelowo got folks all in their feelings because of a comment he made on a podcast. But I'm going to take this thing deeper because I believe that too many people are making a massive mistake when it comes to this particular issue. Also, Color Change is targeting AT&T, saying y'all need to reinstate DEI, and the hell with Donald Trump's FCC chair, Brendan Carr. We'll talk to them next. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network. About Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience. here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281.
Hello, we're the Critter Fixers. I'm Dr. Bernard Hodges.
And I'm Dr. Terrence Ferguson.
And you're tuned in to
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Folks, time for Black Star Network headlines with Brittany Noble.
Jury selection started today for a white man who gunned down 10 black people in a racially motivated attack in Buffalo, New York at a supermarket. 1,200 potential jurors were summoned to a U.S. District Court in Buffalo to complete a more extensive questionnaire to determine whether they can serve as jurors. Those who make the cut will be brought back in August for round 2. The trial is set to begin in October. 22-year-old Peyton Gendron is already serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole after pleading guilty to state charges stemming from the 2022 attack, including domestic terrorism motivated by hate. On May 14th, 2022, he walked into the Tops supermarket to carry out a plan to kill black people. Prosecutors say Gendron committed the rampage on a Saturday afternoon when he knew the store would be full of black shoppers. His attorneys have proposed that pleading guilty to the 27-count federal indictment, including 10 counts of hate crimes resulting in death. But the Department of Justice has rejected this offer, and now the federal government is pursuing the death penalty. Gendron has not pleaded guilty to federal charges. And California Governor Gavin Newsom says that he and his wife Jennifer are under investigation by the Department of Justice. Newsom claims that federal agents have been contacting those connected to them and requesting records as part of their inquiry. He argues that this investigation is a politically motivated push from Trump, as he is known for his public criticism of the president. Newsom says he is not aware of any wrongdoing and believes investigators are searching for a crime rather than an established allegation. The DOJ has not publicly provided details about an investigation or identified specific allegations tied to Newsom or his wife. Haitian refugee Daffy Michelle's death has been ruled a homicide after she was found at a bus stop in Pittsburgh following her release from ICE custody. The Allegheny County medical examiner determined that she died from hypothermia after spending more than 30 hours at the bus stop on March 2nd. 3 days prior to her death, Michelle had been in the Washington County jail, where she had spent the last 6 months facing misdemeanor charges. The judge dismissed the charges against her on February 27th, and her brother was waiting to pick her up. After her release on February 27th, she was transferred to ICE and enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. Her family was not informed that an ICE detainer had been placed on her life. Michelle was in process at the ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations Office and released with an ankle monitor on the same day. And on March 3rd, ICE received a notification indicating that her ankle monitor had been tampered with. ICE officers went to the last known location, according to the GPS system, which was the county medical office. And upon arrival, local staff refused to cooperate or speak with ICE federal law enforcement. Instead, the officers had to contact the U.S. Marshal Service, who were allowed entry into the building and were given the severed ankle monitor. However, local staff refused to provide any information to the U.S. Marshals about Michelle's condition. ICE was never officially notified of her death and learned about it through media reports, as the local county refused to communicate with federal law enforcement. In Canada, 16 officers with the Montreal Police Department are under investigation after being accused of racist conduct. The investigation started in March after fellow officers claimed that they unfairly targeted black people. Some incidents included collecting pieces of black men's dreadlocks to keep as trophies and making racist remarks. On Friday, Montreal Police Chief Fatty Daffner said 2 of the officers have been suspended while the other 14 officers have resigned. Montreal Mayor Saura Martinez-Ferreira said the Minister of Public Security has been made aware of the situation and that they are now working together to have body cameras issued to the department.
All right, folks, be sure to watch The Breakdown, Brittany Noble, every day, noon Eastern, right here on the Black Star Network. Again, The Breakdown, Brittany Noble, every day, noon Eastern, right here on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, coming up next, we'll talk with Color Change about their petitions being sent to AT&T to reinstate DEI. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support our work. Join our Brina Falk fan club. If you want to contribute, you use the Cash App. Via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here on the screen, or go to blackstarnetwork.com, or send checks and money order to P.O. Box 5. First of all, make it out to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281.
What's up, y'all? This is Wendell Haskins, a.k.a. Win Hogan at the Original T Golf Classic. And you know I watch Roland Martin Unfiltered.
7 months ago, AT&T announced they were ending their DEI initiative. Why? Well, to have a $1 billion acquisition go through and be approved by the Federal Communications Commission. Under Brendan Carr, the FCC chair, he's made clear he won't approve any acquisition, any mergers, unless companies get rid of DEI. Well, Color of Change, the largest online racial justice organization in the United States, along with its partners, have delivered thousands of petition signatures directly to A&T headquarters in Dallas. They are demanding the company reinstate DEI programs. This action marks the beginning of Color of Change's Juneteenth week of action, a 6-day series of events taking place from June 15th to the 20th in Dallas, Memphis, Baltimore, D.C., and through virtual programming nationwide. Color of Change's Chief of Campaigns, Amanda Hollowell, joins us now. Amanda, glad to have you here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Okay, how many petitions and signatures have been delivered?
We delivered well over 4,000 signatures, and so it was very significant that we came out there to headquarters to deliver those signatures, because a lot of folks had a reaction to what AT&T is trying to do.
Okay, so 4,000 signatures, that's one thing, okay, but what next? And what do you want them to do? Is there any other action being directed at AT&T? Are you pushing people to have a massive social media campaign using a hashtag on a particular day to target all of their social media accounts?
Well, yes, we want you to target social media accounts, but let's just talk about it. AT&T chose compliance over courage. And what we have is very specific demands, which is reinstate all DEI programs and teams, publicly reject Carr's pressure campaign by name, restore transparency around hiring and equity, and meet with Color of Change and our coalition partners to discuss how you can move forward. AT&T has Black workers. They have Black consumers. They have a lot of the Black dollar when we come to telecoms. And so we want to make sure that folks understand their power. So yes, we can do an online campaign and pressure them, but we actually need people to do continuous calls and continuous signing the petitions, and we will keep delivering them to let them know that we will not stand for this.
Right, but what I mean by that is, again, so what exactly, though, is the campaign beyond delivering petitions? And so, or have y'all provided your toolkit to download memes that show AT&T's black market share for internet, for cell phone service, all these different companies that they own? Will these graphics also show the AT&T board of directors? Are you talking directly with their black board members and others? So give us a sense of, again, how expansive this campaign is.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we plan on releasing a social kit towards the end of the week. What we were really trying to do was actually make this the first step of calling someone out publicly. You know, in the past, what we've done about these corporate mergers rolling back to DEI, we pulled out a full page ad in the New York Times. And then we called out Goldman Sachs Gives in the Times Square on a billboard. And so what we're trying to do is first educate the public and make it more visual for people to understand what is at stake. It's not just communication and media and how you receive information. It's also your civil rights. And then what we're trying to do is actually, we will be writing letters directly to leads, just like you said, black board members, even black celebrities that actually support AT&T or sponsored by them. We had Conscious Lead with us on the bus who came and helped us deliver those petitions. And so what we're really doing is trying to, cultivate that wave of education and people understand. And then we're going to move them to the next level of calling them out, writing letters, and also trying to figure out ways that they can use different telecom services.
So when you say the education, what are the components of the education? Because you're right, folks have to understand what they're protesting before they actually can say, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And how long is that education plan to be? Or so is it an intensive effort over a 2 to 4 week, 6 week strategy, and then it goes into the next phase? Give me a sense of what that is.
It's going to be an intensive effort for actually more than 3 months. And this is part of a bigger campaign that we call our Black Corporate Accountability Agenda. We're releasing a website where we tell where all the dollars are going from these corporations, what they're supporting. If they're supporting like Stephen Miller's nonprofit, which is also racist, if they're, actually funding Trump endorsed candidates during this election season. And we're really trying to make people understand also about DAFs, which is donor advised giving, like what they're doing with SPLC. So we're trying to paint this bigger picture that AT&T is just not an anomaly. It is part of a bigger move of how they actually roll us back to, Jim Crow ways using financial means.
Is that website live?
The website's not live yet. We're getting it ready. So we will actually release at the end of the week. We'll try to get our social kit out around AT&T and a bunch of other corporate accountability pressures that we're doing, and we hope to have it live within the next 2 months.
One of the
things, a full database of all the corporations.
Before I go to my panel with questions, when we targeted CNN's Jeff Zucker for having no direct black execs, I actually ran that campaign with NABJ, and this is one of the things that we did. We came up with 8 to 10 different graphics, such as this, that gave people a clear idea of what we were talking about. And what that then did was people were like, oh my goodness, and just the graphic alone told people exactly what was going on. Yeah. And then one of the things that we did, because some folks said, hey, let's get a letter and have people sign. I'm like, no. What I wanted was each individual groups to announce that they were standing with us. And then that became a news story every single time. So Alphas dropped their letter first, Deltas dropped their letter next, and we rolled it out that way. And it was like drumbeat, story after story, and they became media attention. They had to appoint 5 black executives in a 2-month period, because when they appointed one, I was like, ain't satisfied. Then they appointed another one, not satisfied. But what was great is that people needed to really to walk people through to understand, like this is specifically what we're talking about. Because I think the issue that I have today, Amanda, a lot of our folk are operating on emotion when we see these things, but we don't have lots of information that we're basing it on. And so the emotion dissipates real quick. It's different when they've been educated.
Right. And so we're trying to explain to him what Brendan Carr's role is, how the FCC is making people capitulate to Trump for billions in deals with Spectrum, right? They're actually asking us to sacrifice Black and brown folks and folks in the margins in order for them to get a corporate merger. And really what they're doing is also, as you know, as an independent journalist, they're consolidating media so they can have one voice and only share one view of what they want people to understand and read. And so we're trying to take them through this, that Brendan Carr is the villain in this. He's the one that's forcing all these companies, but these companies don't have to actually agree to this. They can stand up and fight themselves. They're choosing not to because they rather have profit over saving people.
There you go. Questions for the panel. Let's start with Omekongo.
I think that this work that you're doing is so powerful. I was wondering, are there any conversations about possibly partnering with the CBC? We talked about earlier in the show, the letter they written to corporations as well, demanding more. It seems like from the political side to what you're doing as an organization, it could be a powerful collaboration.
It could absolutely be, and we're totally open. We've had conversations with them about our work. We were just with Representative Ayanna Pressley talking about Black unemployment at the Hill and had a whole press conference and did some advocacy around there with our members. And so for me, this only gets bigger. This was just a tease of what we're trying to actually build for folks.
Yolanda, you're there in Texas. In Dallas, of course, AT&T is right there in North Texas.
And AT&T lobbyists are right here in Houston and everywhere else with the legislature.
Yes, they are.
And so now, as my little mind is working, here's what I'm going to do, and then I'll ask you if you are asking people to do the same thing. My law office has AT&T. They carry the Wi-Fi. They carry my phone. I can change companies. Are you asking people to boycott? Right? I'm gonna write a letter to AT&T myself as an elected official, and a separate letter as a business owner who uses AT&T, because we can take our money and go elsewhere. So is that an ask?
Absolutely. That is an ask. And we were really, boycott, divest, whatever it takes. Take your money back, find better, cheaper. We're just trying to get people into this movement, right? We saw what the beginning of Target did. We see where Target is now, and you can show that when we take the Black dollar from you, it does impact you. And so we need to do this more and more and show people that they can stand up with corporations. We don't always just have to wait for the government to regulate people.
But do you want to? But Amanda, do you want, though, for that part of it, do you want that to wait? And finally, what I mean by that is, imagine if it is okay, AT&T, and again, I'm going by the model of Reverend Leon Sullivan and an Operation Breadbasket, where there was a very clearly defined period and strategy. And all of a sudden, if you say, okay, listen, we want to meet with AT&T, you already laid out, we want to meet with AT&T. It's like, AT&T, if y'all don't move, then on first Monday in August, we're going to call that a cut-off AT&T week. And then all of a sudden, then it's en masse. It's 10,000, it's 20,000, it's 30,000 customers switch. And now you have a number that tells a story. Is that sort of how you're thinking with that strategy as opposed to folks just doing it haphazard?
Yeah, we want it actually more strategic, but also, listen, we're not giving them too much time to respond.
Right.
Because they've had plenty of time to respond. And so what we will do is probably do exactly what you said, which is call a national moment for people to take action and divest their dollars from AT&T.
Derek?
Amanda, great seeing you again, and appreciate the work that you're doing. Hey,
Derek.
My question is around pledges versus actual deliverables, right? Because in 2020, for example, we had the Fortune 1000 companies came out with all these pledges after George Floyd. And I think the number was like 67, almost $80 billion.
Yeah, it was anywhere from 40 to 100 billion.
Yeah, it was a huge number.
It was ridiculous.
Right? All these corporations were doing all these pledges because George Floyd was a global movement. But I just Googled, less than 1% of companies actually delivered on their pledges.
Yeah.
It was like less than 1%.
Yeah,
right?
because there was no tracking, there was no accountability. And
absolutely.
And to be perfectly honest, first of all, understand Color of Change does not accept corporate donations. And part of the problem is that the civil rights groups that normally would track that stuff, they depend on corporate donations and didn't do the tracking.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
he answered your question. Yeah.
No, you're right. But but in your ask, I guess my question is, will you be satisfied if corporations saying, okay, Amanda, color of change, we hear you on your ass, and here's our pledge? Or are you looking for something more concrete? So, and I just used the George example. Well, are you looking for something more concrete from AT&T versus a simple pledge to say we conducted a meeting, did the photo op, and send you on your way?
Yeah, no, we do not need that. We made very specific demands from them that they need to actually, reinstate their DEI policies. Also, make sure that they're no longer capitulating with Brendan Carr and the FCC. And even if they have to break this agreement, right, and sacrifice the billions in order to actually save people. And so it's not. We can't go with the pledge. The pledges only go so far. We need folks to actually take real action. And really, to give you better perspective, since the rollback of DEI, we've seen almost, close to over 500,000 Black women lose their jobs in this country, right? The rollback of DEI, we can directly connect to the fact that this is why Black unemployment is increasing in this country. These folks are using us as sacrificial lambs for their corporate greed.
And 500,000 Black women, 400,000 plus Black men. And so that's one of the reasons why unemployment went to 7.2%, although it dropped to 6.6% last month. That's because many folk stopped actually looking for a job. So it's impacted Black men and Black women and a whole lot of folk in corporate America. And the reality is, we talk about the slashing of DEI. It's a lot of folks who are Black in that area. And the other impact is this here, about those folks no longer being in those positions. A significant number of Black nonprofits and Black organizations and Black events across the country have had funding completely cut. Some organizations have seen an 80% decline in support. We just had the International African American Museum on the show on Friday. They got to have a furlough to make up a $6.5 million deficit, and that's largely because corporate support has evaporated for that museum in Charleston. And so this is all a result of these companies running away from DEI because what the Trump folks are doing, I need people listening to understand, they are literally going through the list of every single event that these companies are sponsoring. And if they see Black, Latino, Asian American, Native American, women, gay, they are striking that, because Brendan Carr, and people don't understand, why does Brendan Carr AT&T? Because AT&T is a telecommunications company, the FCC oversees those businesses. And he said, if y'all, I know of another company that literally said to Black Women's Expo in Chicago, we would love to sponsor y'all. Can y'all take Black out your name and just call it Women's Expo? So that's what's happening. So I need people watching to understand, one of the reasons many of your nonprofits are having smaller galas, are having smaller programming. I can tell you right now, I'm on the board of National Association of Black Journalists. We are under $800,000 this year for our convention, and we saw a drastic drop last year in Cleveland. This year in Atlanta, all because of DEI and the company saying, "Hey, we can't sponsor anything because Black is in your name," and that's what's going on with Donald Trump and MAGA. Amanda, final comment.
We don't have a Department of Justice. We have a bunch of thugs in the Department of Justice. We don't have inspector generals. And so we, as citizens of this country, as voters, as taxpayers, have to take control of this moment and make sure these corporations understand that you need us. Your stakeholders need our dollars in order to make sure they're profitable. And we need to actually stick to that and make sure people understand that we no longer stand for this.
Absolutely. And I keep telling y'all, I've been telling y'all, this is all an effort to completely defund Black America. That is the aim. Amanda Hollowell, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Folks, actor David Oyelowo has apologized for comments he made on a podcast as it related to being a Black actor. And he was talking about this whole back and forth over the issue of the whole issue of, first of all, Black actors and British actors, and it was just all this sort of nonsense back and forth. This has been a raging debate. You know, folks, of course, were talking about this skit that Drewski did, talking about the same thing. And first of all, and again, it's nothing new. This is not new. What you're seeing here, this actual debate, is not the first time we've seen it, because I'm going to show you a clip so I can explain that. Let's pull up let me see here. This is what David posted. I'm going to play the skit in a second. I just want to show you. I want to show you the. Go to my iPad, please, because I want this to be larger. He said, "I want to apologize unreservedly to all those who were rightly offended by my comments on the 154 Africa podcast regarding Southern accents. It was the wrong thing to say, and it is not how I feel. I have nothing but deep respect and great love for black people of all kinds, especially those from the American South. Reducing a dialect born from the richness and resilience of black Southern culture to anything less was careless and wrong. All I truly care about is lifting up my black brothers and sisters from all places through my work and my words. Please forgive my failure to do that in this instance, signed David Oyelowo." This was the portion of the interview with 154 Africa that people were incensed with.
How about Southerner?
How about what?
A Southerner.
Well, if I'm being a Southerner, well, you know what? You know what happens to Southerners? If you take the Nigerian accent like this, and you slow it down, you put a lot of slavery in there.
Facts.
And then you start to put a little bit of subservience in it. This is what starts to happen to the Nigerian accent.
Man,
it goes. Because literally, if you're down here and you start to speed it up, and then you start to take all the thing out of it, then before you know it, you're talking like this.
Now we are free again.
Now we are free. We are released.
Hey,
that
was a smooth transition. You see that? Damn.
You have to study it. You have to study it.
No. You usually
No.
I do a Southern accent.
No, the way he just did that whole thing. Go ahead.
Clear your throat. You know when you.
No. I gotta stay in my lane on that one.
Okay. A black dude from L.A.
Easy now.
Okay, so what Oyelowo was doing was talking about how he works through these various dialects. That's what he was talking about. And part of that conversation was in the aftermath of the Drewski skit that went viral, where he was really talking about this whole thing about British actors, black Brits, taking the jobs of black Americans in movies.
You go with me now.
Rudy, stop talking like that. You ain't going to no big city. Mass ain't gonna let you.
Yeah, I'm going with or without you.
Rudy, stop talking like that. Stop.
Hey, what are you niggers doing over there?
Get out of here.
Hey, what are you doing?
And
cuts. Fantastic. I need more American slave. Okay?
Like struggle.
Yeah, the struggle.
Sort of like the dialogue, like the back and forth banner.
Absolutely. Yes.
See, this role was sort of a bit cheeky. I got a little bit out of my comfort zone, you know.
During the filming of this role in this character, I felt oppressed, like an American slave, like a lot of struggle. I studied the art.
A fantastic turnout on the red carpet tonight. And just arriving, we have Samson Dubois at the American Guild Awards.
Samson, you look great tonight.
How hard was it for you to change your accent?
As a little boy from Manchester, I think, I struggled a bit with the dialect, right? But to really get into character for this quite astonishing role that I took on, to say the least, I put it all on the line.
All right, All right, so like on Twitter, that's got 4 to 6 million views. On other platforms as well, it's got millions upon millions of views. And this is not a new conversation. You've had other Hollywood actors, African Americans, complaining about the same thing. Samuel Jackson once talked about this here, and others said, well, you know, they're cheaper than African Americans. And then you have the folks out there, a lot of ADOS folks, a lot of foundational Black American people who are angry, like, how dare these folks be taking our roles? Folks were angry when David Kaluuya played Fred Hampton in the movie Judas and the Black Messiah. Of course, Oyelowo played Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the movie Selma. You have Cynthia Erivo, who played Harriet Tubman. You have Chiwetel Ejiofor, who was in 12 Years a Slave. Damson Idris was in Snowfall. And we could talk about Idris Elba, on and on and on. But this is not new. It's literally not a new conversation. Almost a decade ago, I talked to David Harewood. David Harewood starred on Homeland. He starred as the head of the CIA on Homeland. He is a British actor, and we talked about the reality of racism that African American actors face in the United States and Black British actors face in the UK. The problems faced by black actors in England are the same as the problems faced by black actors in the U.S. You previously done interviews where you talked about the difficulty of landing roles in your home country. So talk about that, because we see Idris Elba, we see other folks out there who are getting various roles. But what African Americans face in Hollywood here, you say you faced the exact same thing in the UK.
Yes, we do, and obviously I think the business is much bigger here, so there's a lot more opportunity, which is why many, not just black Brits, but many Brits tend to find that they have to leave England to kind of seek better roles, more complex roles here in America. I mean, I, for one, have been trying to get here for, I'd say, about 5 or 6 years. And every time I come here, I'm just staggered by the amount of work there is here, the amount of characters there are to play, and it's a great draw for British actors, and it's just very difficult to get those more complex roles in the UK, because they sometimes are a little bit two-dimensional or even one-dimensional, and I just find that the characters here are just a bit more rounded and more grounded.
There's a very interesting story about the origins of your last name, Harewood. So share it with our audience.
Yes. Well, the Harewood name came from Barbados. The Lord Harwood. I say Harewood, but some people say Harwood. And Lord Harwood was a very, very wealthy plantation owner in Barbados, and the abolition of the slave the abolition of the slave trade, all the slaves on the property would take the last name of your owner, as it were, and so that's where the Harewood name came into kind of my family, or my great grandfather, who was called George Harewood, and so that's where the name came into the family.
So do y'all hook up for family reunions?
We do. We try to. In fact, what they did is, in this documentary, is they put an advert in the paper, and it was basically saying, would all the Harewoods in Barbados, would we all meet in this beach bar? Right. And it was staggering, because about 50 people turned up, and none of them we didn't know each other, but because we all had the name Harewood, we all realized that basically somehow there was a connection there between us all, and we showed them pictures of this fabulous house in Leeds called Harwood House. And many of them thought they could make a claim for it, because obviously their ancestors must have worked extremely hard to build it.
So, folks, that was 13 years ago. So I just want folk to understand this is not a new debate. The issue that I have is with this here, is that so many people are caught up in this, they're taking our roles, we're not taking their roles, and they start going back and forth without understanding that, and we've said this beforehand, this is all based upon where did the boat drop folks off. What makes no sense is that when you think about W.E.B. Du Bois. When you think about Paul Robeson, these were Pan-Africanists. These were folks who were trying to get black folks and others to realize the African diaspora, that it was broader than just what was taking place here, that you had Jim Crow here in the United States, but then you had the exporting of Jim Crow abroad. Earlier today, while working out, I was watching a documentary called The Harlem Hellfighters. It was done by Robin Roberts' production company. You can see it on Netflix. And it examines this regiment that served the longest in World War I, 191 days. 3,000 troops. They suffered the most losses in World War I of American troops. Nearly half of the Harlem Hellfighters, the 369th, they died in World War I. But it tells the story of a Henry Johnson, who was the first hero, American hero in that war. A man who literally took on and killed anywhere from 25 to 40 Germans. When American media was told his story, it spread like wildfire across the United States, and he was hailed as a hero. That was in 1918. But it wasn't until 2015 with President Barack Obama where he was awarded posthumously the Medal of Honor. And in fact, what's so crazy is the Harlem Hellfighters were not fighting under America. The Harlem Hellfighters were fighting under the banner of France. Yes, under the French. And the French awarded the Harlem Hellfighters their most coveted military award, their highest honor. So if you want to understand our history, then what you have to recognize is that black folks have been dealing with this as well. In fact, if you want to understand this reality, and it tells the story, they talk about the Leonard Memo. This was a memo that was written by the leader of the American Expeditionary Force, who sent the memo to the French, telling them how they should treat the black soldiers because they did not want the black soldiers to get too much into their feelings. They wanted them to disrespect the black soldiers. They wanted Jim Crow to rule the day. They wanted to protect the notion that white soldiers were better than black soldiers. When the reality is the black soldiers were better. 2023, an army base in Louisiana was named after Henry Johnson. The racist in the White House, changed that back. It was called Fort Polk, named after a Confederate. They named it after this brother, who was the first American hero in World War I. And they changed the name to this other general named Polk. That's what you're dealing with, the racists that you have in the Pentagon with Pete Hegseth, and of course, 2 blocks away in the White House with Donald Trump. So you may ask, why am I saying all of this? Well, I'm saying this because you've had folk like Robeson, Du Bois, and others who understood imperialism, colonialism, who understood how Africans were being disenfranchised, who understood how they are being treated, who understood the marginalization of black people worldwide, not just in the United States. So the question really is, why are we getting caught up in their BS? Why are black folks getting caught up in the BS of white supremacy and fighting black brothers and sisters from England? And it's not like they're taking, quote, all the roles, which really is nonsense. See, if you're black, if you're an African American, black American, saying, well, why are they taking all the roles? Well, see, you're asking the wrong question. What you should be asking is, why are there not more roles? See, you falling for the crab in a barrel. And that's what's going on right here. We are falling for that. To me, it was stupid to watch people condemn Cynthia Erivo because she played Harriet. There are people who were critical of previous comments that she made about African Americans. Fine, criticize her. But I also need African Americans to understand something. This is really for the folk who ain't got a passport. Do y'all understand that America's greatest export are movies, television, and music? So I want you to imagine 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010, 2020. American movies being shown across the world. What do you think the representation of black people was and is? Do you understand that Django Unchained really was the movie that taught Hollywood that a, quote, black film could work overseas, even though 2/3 of the world are people of color? Do you understand that the Chiwetel Ejiofor movie, 12 Years a Slave, which was about an American slave, they literally changed the poster overseas, and they took Chiwetel Ejiofor off of the poster and put Brad Pitt on the poster to market it to white audiences overseas. Y'all remember the movie's Couples Retreat? It was Couples Retreat. In America, all of the couples were on the poster. When it went overseas, the two black characters, Faison Love was one of them, was not on the poster. That's the game that Hollywood has played. So what we have to recognize is that when black Brits or Africans or Caribbeans or black people from other countries, when they come to the United States and have a perception of who we are, that is also based upon what has been fed to them for decades from white America. This is what happens when you understand history. This is what happens when you understand what takes place. Robert Abbott founded the Chicago Defender. He was a rich man. He would travel the world every year. He was going to hotels in other parts of the world and that Americans owned, and they would not let him stay there. And he caused a major stink. You know why? Because those white folks were bringing Jim Crow to those countries. Y'all, it's right here in this Leonard memo. In this Leonard memo, they literally were demanding that the French military institute Jim Crow because they felt black soldiers were going to be too uppity because the French were respecting them as human beings. So why do I say all of this? And by the way, you need to go watch the Harlem Hellfighters. By the way, you should go watch the W.B. Du Bois documentary that's on PBS to get an understanding of his thinking when it came to Pan-Africanism. I'm saying all of this because we should stop this nonsense of listening to these idiots who yell, "You a tether, you a tether." Oh, I know them fools. Because I once stated, and I have no problem saying it, that my maternal, paternal ancestors migrated from Haiti. These same dumbasses, these FBA people, "Oh, you a tether, you a tether." No, I was born in Houston. In fact, Riverside Hospital is celebrating the black folks that were born in that hospital on Friday, on Juneteenth. That is happening. My mom and daddy were born in Houston. My grandparents were born in Louisiana. And I'm like, do y'all ignore my maternal line, my maternal and paternal line? So if I got four grandparents and one line migrated from Haiti, the other three don't count. See, that's the stupidity we're getting into. We got black folks who sitting there going, yeah, I'm FBA, you ain't real. And so you know what's amazing to me? When I listen to people who say, man, them black Brits taking our job. I wonder what these Negroes today saying that would have said to Shirley Chisholm's face when she became the first black woman ever elected to Congress. Ever. I wonder what these Simple Simons would say to Sidney Poitier from the Bahamas. I wonder what they would say to freedom fighter Harry Belafonte, Jamaica. I wonder what these same Simple Simons would say to Stokely Carmichael, also known as Kwame Ture. Where are his folks from? If I'm correct, Barbados. Y'all, we can find a whole line of black people who were fighting for freedom who were not born here. Colin Powell, mom and daddy immigrants. Eric Holder, mom and daddy immigrants. Y'all, we can do this all day. So, this to me is a stupid ass conversation about who's taking jobs. What we should be saying as African Americans, what black Brits should be saying, is expand the opportunities, expand the jobs. Don't limit us to a few roles. Don't have the same black people vying for the same roles. That's what we should be saying. We should not be playing these simple crabs in the barrel games, because all that does is let white supremacists and white nationalists in Hollywood off the hook. Thoughts from my panel? Derek, you first.
You know, Roland, I agree with you 100%. You know, when you think about those who say, for example, women are not leaders. I mean, we got one, my dear sister that's on the panel with us. I mean, she's doing the work in Texas. But for those who feed this into our communities, right? And I always respond to them in the manner in which you did. I said, well, have you seen the movie called Woman King? It just came out, what, 3 or 4 years ago?
Yep.
That's was a leader, and she was bad.
Yep, directed by Gina Prince Bythewood.
That's right. I said, have you seen the movie? They said, oh, that's back then, Derek. I said, okay, what about 688? Have you seen that movie? See, because that movie, if my memory serves me correct, that was back in the World War II.
Yeah, World War II. That was directed by Tyler Perry, starring Kerry Washington. It's on Netflix.
That's exactly right. And so then, Glory, Tuskegee Airmen. We can, as you stated, my dear brother, we can play this game all day. We cannot feed into their white supremacists, tote their water. We can't. We got to stop this.
Yep.
Because when you think about it, my last point is this, Roland, because if we start to fight amongst each other, because see, they realized a long time ago, the first time I read the Willie Lynch letter, the whole essence of the Willie Lynch letter was to make sure that the field Negro and the house Negro would never unite.
Yeah.
Because our greatest strength is unity. And so this is a way for them to continue to divide and conquer us, and by us fighting against ourselves.
Yep.
Because once we realize that unity, Roland, we're unstoppable.
Well, and even though the Will Lynch letter was not real, it certainly has real life implications. Stokely Carmichael Kwame Ture, his family was Trinidad and Tobago. I also find it real interesting how these simple Simons who love talking all this nonsense about do for self and stuff like that love to tout Marcus Garvey, Jolanda, who was from Jamaica. I'm just saying. It shows just the stupidity of some people. Go ahead.
But it's like you said, Roland. We all came from the same continent. It's just where did the slave ship stop first? And, you know, they understand that united we stand and divided we fall. So they pit us all against each other. And what I've actually started doing now that I'm older, because I just believe that taking money out of people with money's pocket is what works. And I mean, boycotting. I literally don't watch shows that don't have black people on them. I don't, even if they're popular, because that's my way to protest. And if we look around, like if you live in Houston or Dallas or places where you see black folks, and you look at TV shows that literally have no black people on it, like, again, why are we upset that people are going where the work is? But why wouldn't we boycott? I just don't think that as much money as black people spend, regardless of where we come from, as a race, that we can control things if we decided to put our money where our anger is. And that is what I believe that we need to do. So I actually was watching that 154 because I just think it's interesting because the guys that are over that show are both African and they have different perspectives on things. And the other guys like leave black people alone. So of course I watch whatever he does because he puts great stuff on social media. But my point is we need to fight the same enemy because we all have the same enemy, regardless of where we're from. And we should spend our dollars and show people what we approve of and what we don't approve of. And so I think that's a way that we can show white media, which is exactly, Roland, why you did what you did when you left the places where everybody wanted to be and created a foundation for other black people to start their own networks because the white media is the white media. And why are we mad when white people...
First of all, remember, I was with black media before I was with CNN. I never left black media. When CNN ended, I expanded what I was doing with black media. Then when the black media opportunities ended with the Tom Joyner Morning Show, Radio 1 and TV 1, then I started this. So it ended in white media and black-owned media, and the reality is you don't have you have no black news shows on TV One or Clio TV, which they own. You've got no black news shows on BET, where they got that monthly magazine. I don't even know if they still even do it. And BET, not even black-owned. Paramount, David Ellison, right-winger, owns BET. And we can go down the line how many black-owned media aren't there as well. Congo, the thing here, again, it amazes me when these people enter these stupid conversations and they're talking about, where you from, where your mama from, where your daddy from, and they the same ones quote Malcolm X and his mama was from Grenada. So I guess Malcolm X is a tether. I mean, this is just how ridiculous this discussion is. Again, we should not be arguing over minuscule roles for black Brits and African Americans. What we should be saying is we want more of the pie, Hollywood.
Yeah, and I would argue also creating our own pies, like on the network we're talking about right now. And I think about like Ryan Coogler, I think about like Sinners, and I think about Black Panther. Like, look how Pan-African those two movies were. You know, and that was one of us, you know, at the center putting that together. There are so many great opportunities for collaboration. I think, like, you know, when Cynthia Erivo, you know, makes the comments like she made, these are opportunities for conversation so we can build as opposed to tearing people down. One of the things that we have to also understand is that this conversation about Hollywood hiring Black American actors is that, there's this mindset of British people make better actors. But as we all know, this is happening across industries. A lot of corporations are hiring non-African Americans and so they can still have their black numbers. Some of these colleges and universities are doing the same things. And so we can go across multiple industries where they're intentionally not bringing in black Americans and bringing other black people from the diaspora. That's not a reason for us in the diaspora to be against each other. That's a reason for, like you're saying, to call them out and continue to build together. If we can do the work to understand that this has been an international effort. Dr. King spent time on the continent, right? So it's just like, if we can understand that, then we would understand how the system works.
Yep.
I mean, even Lee Daniels with Daniel Oyelowo said, you know, I hired him because African Americans come with too much baggage, right? And so these are opportunities for conversation. As black people, there are more of us across the world as black and brown people. We need to come together and stop tearing each other apart, because Hollywood does keep giving prominent African-American roles like, you know, Whitney Houston and stuff to non-black American actors. But that's an opportunity for us to build together and not tear each other down. We have to come together as Pan-Africanists and build this global network, because we are the global majority.
All right, then. Ome Congo, Jolanda, and Derek, I surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us on today's show. Folks, earlier this afternoon, Bishop William Barber and repairs of the breach had their Moral Mondays just 2 blocks away from us in front of Lafayette Park, in front of the White House. Here is some of what Bishop Barber had to say.
You are speaking today to come and stand shoulder to shoulder. And in a moment, our national leader for our prophetic council will come and introduce them as we are talking to thousands upon thousands of people online, and many of you who are here. Because of some of the actions of today, it is necessary for me to reshape the narrative and take a little time to clear some things up. I want you to hear this, family, and hear it well. We are standing here today on this Moral Monday because there is a profound weeping sickness in the soul of our nation's statecraft. We've gathered at this public pulpit rally because we must confront boldly the tragic, short-sighted, and morally bankrupt decisions that traded the sacred promise of peace for the hollow theater of political vanity. We must understand why we are building a public pulpit today. Oh yes, we've got to take our faith out of the buildings of the church. The pulpit cannot be locked behind stained glass windows in this season. The pulpit cannot be confined to the safe boundaries of the sanctuary. Too many of our leaders want a choreographed holiness. They want a sterile, comfortable religion that judges a person's entire walk of faith simply by the height of their steeple, the layout of their sanctuary, or the sweetness of their Sunday morning hymns. But we hear the word of the Lord today. God despises that kind of hollow performance. God turns his back on a faith that sings beautifully on Sunday, but then votes to crush the vulnerable on Monday. We need a public pulpit right out here on the pavement to counter this toxic falsehood of religious nationalism. This unholy movement attempts to hijack the cross, replace authentic moral focus with a flag, and twist the gospel into a weapon of control. Then they try to sanitize history. They try to lift up the founding fathers as if they were perfect icons of morality. But let's tell the truth in the open air today. Those founders were flawed, slave-holding men who wrote about liberty while keeping their brothers and sisters in chains. And we refuse to worship a national myth. When the state uses its power to manipulate chaos and then try to call it holy, the church and people of faith must bring its message directly to the palace gates. And we denounce politicians who legislate poverty by day, as Reverend Della Owens Barber said, and then pretend to pray at night. We give voice to millions of low-income workers and disabled individuals and struggling families whose existence is threatened by an unholy, bring this mic up, unholy alliance between political power and corporate wealth. Look again at Jeremiah. In the 22nd chapter, Bishop, the word of God did not come to the temple priest in private. The word came directly to the gates of the king's palace. Jeremiah stood right there in the public square and cried out, execute justice and righteousness. Deliver the spoiled out of the hand of the oppressor. Yes. Stop doing wrong to the immigrant and the fatherless and the widows, yes, and stop shedding innocent blood. Yes. What if Jeremiah's agenda were our policy today? Yes, yes. It would look like an immediate halt to foreign policy aggression. It would mean an absolute end to state-sanctioned violence. Yes. It would mean protecting immigrants, the refuge, and the stranger at the border. Yes. Jeremiah's exegesis is clear for us today. A government loses its moral authority when it sheds innocent blood to feed its own ego. Yes. And when rulers build their palaces on the backs of the poor, the public pulpit must break the silence. Yes. Look at the record and look at the truth. A few years ago, a historic covenant was made. It was called the Iran Nuclear Agreement. It was a patient diplomatic shield built to prevent the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction without firing a single shot or dropping a single bomb or shedding a single drop of precious human blood. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. But then came a spirit of arrogance, a leadership blinded by malice and intoxicated by the desire to undo the past. The Trump administration unilaterally tore up that peace covenant. They broke our nation's word on the global stage. They marched us to the precipice of an unnecessary war of choice, rattling sabers, escalating tension, putting millions of innocent souls in imminent, terrifying danger. Let us speak the raw, unvarnished truth today. This arrogance did not stop at breaking covenants. It escalated into an apocalyptic madness. A leader threatened to unleash the ultimate war crime against the Almighty itself, the complete, utter destruction of an entire ancient civilization, to threaten the total annihilation of millions of God's children. This is not statecraft, it is blasphemy. It is an act of supreme moral depravity that dares to play God with the fate of humanity. But oh, thank God that the conscience of some could not be silenced. Right now, I want to thank God for those generals, those leaders in uniform that said, no, we will not do it. I don't know how many it was, but think about the gravity of that moment. We were standing on the very brink of the end. And if it had not been for those who chose moral sanity over blind obedience, the world could have been set ablaze.
Folks, we caught up with some of the folks who are out there today, and this is why they said they are there every Monday protesting as a part of Moral Mondays here in Washington, D.C.
It's so important to continue to raise a prophetic voice in the name of our faith, because so many things are going wrong in this country. People do not have adequate health care. This war with Iran is irresponsible and unnecessary. And so many horrible things have been done by this administration that are contrary to the will of the American people.
To bring attention to the issues that our nation is facing, and we bring it here, framed in Jeremiah 22 that says, go down to the palace, the king's palace. So it's not about sending an email or sending a tweet, as we say. We come here to make our voices known, to make this a public pulpit, to preach about the issues that are impacting our people, that have been a result of bad policies by our government. And that's why we came, to preach to them so that they may hear the word of God, and that their consciousness will be arrested by the Holy Spirit to do what is right, to do what is just. And that is what God requires of us, that we love mercy and we act justly, and that we walk humbly with our God.
the consistency helps people find us, helps people know we're going to be here. It reminds the folks that we're trying to talk to, whether they just be the local folks hanging out or the folks in the house behind us here, that we're going to keep coming back. It's not about a once and done. We stand here, we say a few words, and then we go home. It's that we're going to be back, and we're going to be back next week, and we're going to be back the week after that, and the week after that, and we're going to keep coming back with a moral message and a reason to defend each other and to defend this democracy and to defend justice and fairness week after week after week.
It's important to keep our focus on the ethical choices that this federal government is forcing us to make. And we have to make sure that we are walking in the right path.
We have to bring the attention to what is happening in this White House, in state houses across. The attack on voting rights, the attack on the poor, and then we're understanding that it's $1 trillion budget for this war that we're in.
And I started with Moral Mondays, and so did Peggy at the Supreme Court. And the ones that are here that started Holy Week, it's just the discipline of coming out together sort of in a way that I think makes a difference for our sort of showing up together.
I believe it's important that we show that we care enough to keep showing up over and over, and that we won't go away until things are fixed.
It's important to me because I believe in justice. Things that are happening in the world, it's not what God created to be. God created us to live as one, in unity, peace, and harmony. And he would be highly upset, well, he is highly upset, with those that are not abiding by his word. And his word is true.
The importance is really about the message that consistency makes. I live here in D.C., just outside the city line in Silver Spring, which is this street, 16th Street. And so coming down here every week for me as a local is very important because it says this is something that's powerful to us, and to have people from outside this area who aren't just coming here for a one-time showy event, but come week after week, and well over a year, Moral Mondays now have been happening here in D.C. That is a commitment to who we are that's not just about using us as a backdrop, and I think that's really, really critical to any success of a movement that happens here in D.C., that local people in D.C. as well as in Maryland and Virginia and people from across the country and across the world, that we're in solidarity with one another and we're fighting together.
This is critical right now because we are 5 months away from a huge election, and people need to be able to vote based on the real facts of what policies have meant for poor and low-wage people. And so Moral Mondays is pointing out to people that a whole series of policies have been passed by this White House, by this Congress, that hurt poor and low-wage people. Starting a year ago with what we call the Big Ugly Bill, they called it the One Big Beautiful Bill, but it was a bill that slashed money for food assistance, for Medicaid, even for billionaires' taxes, and poured that money into the war economy and into detention centers. Terrible for poor and low-wage people. People need to vote against that and vote for people who will pass policies that are good for poor and low-wage people.
Moral Monday needs to happen every Monday so that more and more people can become involved to see what's happening, and for us to keep up the message that policy violence cannot continue to occur and that we need to stop the war.
I just followed Dr. Barber along the way about his stands for justice. I want to be a part of that. You try to find a way to do something to stand for what you believe in. Showing up seems to be something that you should do. I like the foundation of the message, that we're standing on prophetic words, on our beliefs. And so it's the least that I can do.
I think that
The way people are being treated under this administration is immoral. Take the detention centers. Most people wouldn't treat their dogs the way they're treating people. If you look at that family detention center in Texas, doesn't seem to be any outdoor places for children to play and get exercise. And now they're buying up warehouses to put people? I mean, how immoral. The first and greatest commandment is to love God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul. The second is like unto it, love thy neighbor as thyself. And I absolutely believe that, and this is part of loving my neighbor.
I feel like it's important to have Moral Mondays every week because it keeps policies, issues, and things that people should be paying attention to more relevant every single week. I feel like everyone has a general idea of what's going on wrong in the world, but Moral Monday keeps it relevant every single week, and that's why it's important.
I think the consistency is important to let this administration, to let those that are seeking to roll back rights for all people, to let them know that there's a moral thread, a moral consciousness that will not be silent and that will forever find its way into the public square, into the public space, and to uplift the consciousness of the country.
Because this administration has lost their moral compass, and we need to find it. And we need to show them that the people don't agree with where this country is going and that we want to change.
We need to be unrelenting in the public witness for an alternative to the cruelty and the meanness of politics as it's being played here now. So to have the voice, the words of the prophetic traditions from different faiths and different religions and just from people of conscience, we don't hear enough of it. We don't see enough of it. So we show up every week.
I think it's important to do it every week because it's a constant reminder that changes aren't happening and that we're not going to back off.
All right, folks, if you want to see that full rally, simply go to our YouTube channel, our Black Star Network app, and you can check it out. All right, folks, that is it for our show today. Hey, support the work that we do, folks. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to contribute via Cash App, use a Stripe QR code. You see it right here. Use that QR code also for credit cards. What you should do is, if you're listening, go to blackstarnetwork.com to check it out. Text and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Of course, download the Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag by going to shopblackstarnetwork.com, shopblackstarnetwork.com. Hats, t-shirts, mugs, all that good stuff. Support the black-owned products that you see. We support more than 50 companies are on shopblackstarnetwork.com in our marketplace. Everything you see in our studio is available on our marketplace. So simply go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Folks, on Saturday, it's going to be happening in Harlem. On Saturday, what's happening in Harlem. There's going to be a massive rally. When we fight, we win. This is the aftermath of All Roads Lead to the South. Action taking place there in New York City, in Harlem, beginning at 1 p.m. on Saturday, this Juneteenth weekend. Also, we have information tomorrow for a rally taking place in Georgia on Thursday, leading up to the event, of course, the Georgia legislative session. This, of course, is Juneteenth week. You see me rocking my first Juneteenth shirt. I'm going to have one every single day this week. We celebrate Juneteenth, and we'll have more details so we can walk people through, because I think too many people are not fully understanding what Juneteenth is about It ain't just about concerts. It's not just about partying. It also has a purpose, and so we're going to talk about that as well. All right, y'all, that is it for me. I appreciate all of y'all watching. Thank you so very much. If y'all are on YouTube, y'all didn't hit the like button. Y'all should hit the damn like button, okay? Let's see, where we at now? We should easily be at 1,100, 1,200, 1,500 likes. See, a lot of y'all just be sitting here freeloading. So we finally hit 1,000. Took us long enough, but y'all was sitting there messing around. So, all right, y'all, that's it. I'm going to see y'all tomorrow right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla!